Imagine this. It's the 1950s, and the world is still recovering from the devastation of World War II. But in the midst of rebuilding, a new rivalry is simmering. Not on the ground, not in politics, but up there, in the vast, unexplored expanse of outer space. This was the space race, a high-stakes battle between two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. Each was determined to prove its technological and ideological superiority, and the ultimate goal, to conquer the final frontier. It was a race unlike any other, marked by jaw-dropping achievements, gut-wrenching risks, and relentless ambition.
When shown in a recent test, the powerful thrust of the Aerobee sends the whole assembly up through the dense stratosphere, a layer of heavy air 50 miles thick surrounding the Earth. The first rocket is then dropped, its fuel exhausted. A second rocket ignites and takes over. Altitude 140 miles, satellite being stripped for action. It's that round ball in the nose.
How did it all begin? What drove these two nations to invest billions, risking lives, for the sake of exploring space? To understand the origins, let's go back to 1957. The Soviet Union takes the world by surprise, launching the first artificial satellite, Sputnik, into space. This polished metal sphere with 4 antennas sent a simple radio signal that could be heard around the world. A beep, beep, beep that signaled a new era. The Americans were shocked. For the first time, they realized that the Soviet Union was capable of sending something into space that could theoretically orbit over American soil. Sputnik was more than just a scientific achievement. It was a statement. It said, "We're here and we're ahead." Suddenly, space wasn't just an uncharted territory. It was a battlefield, and it was clear whoever controlled the skies might also control the world. The United States responded quickly, determined not to fall behind. In 1958, they established NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, signaling a commitment to catching up and surpassing the Soviet Union. But catching up wasn't easy. While the Soviets celebrated the first successful satellite, the Americans faced a series of embarrassing failures. Rockets exploded on the launch pad, satellites failed to reach orbit, and the world watched America stumble. Yet, these setbacks only fueled America's resolve. With NASA's birth came a renewed sense of purpose. The mission was clear: to beat the Soviets at their own game. In 1961, the Soviets scored yet another groundbreaking achievement. Yuri Gagarin, a young cosmonaut, became the first human to journey into outer space and orbit the Earth. It's hard to imagine the bravery it took. Yuri was strapped inside a tiny capsule, launched into the unknown, with no guarantee he'd survive the trip. But he did, and he became an instant hero. This was a monumental moment. The USSR had put the first human in space, once again outpacing the United States. Now the pressure was on. If America couldn't put a man in space soon, it would be seen as a defeat not just for the country, but for democracy itself.
From Hammersmith onwards, the route was crowded with people eager to see and cheer. Yuri has had plenty of this sort of thing in the past few weeks.
In the midst of this tension, President John F. Kennedy took the stage. He issued one of the most ambitious challenges in history.
Time for a great new American enterprise. Time for this nation to take a clearly leading role in space achievement, which in many ways may hold the key to our future on Earth.
Kennedy declared that by the end of the decade, the United States would land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth. This was a bold goal, especially considering America hadn't even put a man in orbit yet. But this was Kennedy's style. He knew that achieving something monumental would not only cement America's place as a global leader, but would also demonstrate the power of democracy and freedom. To get there, NASA launched the Mercury and Gemini programs, each designed to push the limits of human endurance and technology. With Mercury, NASA proved that astronauts could survive in space. With Gemini, they practiced the maneuvers needed for a moon landing. It was during Gemini that American astronauts learned how to live and work in space for extended periods, how to rendezvous and dock spacecraft, and even how to conduct spacewalks. Every mission brought them one step closer to Kennedy's dream.
Okay, put a little roll in, took it right out. I had very good control with it. I just needed more air.
Okay, stand by. Let me take a couple pictures, bro.
All right.
After years of preparation, setbacks, and triumphs, it all came down to Apollo 11. On July 16, 1969, a Saturn V rocket blasted off, carrying Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins towards history. Millions watched as the astronauts approached their target. And on July 20th, Armstrong and Aldrin descended from their lunar module to step onto the moon's surface.
July 1969, PT. We came in peace with all mankind.
With those words, humanity had officially set foot on another world. And in that moment, the United States not only won the space race, but they achieved something far greater. They inspired generations to look to the stars. The space race might have started as a political rivalry, but it gave us so much more. It led to breakthroughs in technology, medicine, and engineering that still impact our lives today. It showed us that, with enough determination, humans could go beyond their limitations. And now, decades later, that spirit of exploration continues. The new generation is eyeing Mars and beyond, with a whole new kind of space race unfolding. So, while the rivalry between the USA and the USSR may have faded, the legacy of their race to the stars lives on. And it all started with a simple beep from Sputnik.